Welcome back. It's, of course, a terrific Tuesday. Frank decided to call it Tobacco Tuesday, but I think every day is Tobacco Day. But that's just me. I'm John Tobacco. And we're coming to you live from the Question Tequila Studios in the Newsmax headquarters here in Midtown Manhattan. The Dow is holding steady. Bitcoin is up a couple $100, but I would be very careful with Bitcoin right now. And as I mentioned yesterday, I am seriously considering shorting Bitcoin because I think it's going to be going a lot lower due to government intervention, which could get quite scary. And joining me again in the Mix It Up segment is Walker Bragman, independent journalist and a man with a law degree from Brooklyn Law, and Jen Kearns, the founder of the WAGA movement, Women for a Great America. Ladies, gentlemen, we talked about the debate preview. I want to get into this Trump-Cummings thing, but before we get to that, just let me get your follow-ups, Jen. We got 2 nights of debates. Who do you think comes out on top, and who do you think the big loser will be?
Well, I think Biden will still come out on top. You look at the last debate, which was a month ago, the needle has not really moved for anyone else. It had a short blip upward for Kamala Harris. That has now gone back to about where she was before the last debate. Unless someone else has got a magic bullet in their handbag that night, proverbially speaking, of course, I think Biden wins it again.
Walker, best and worst.
So I don't know how much these debates actually matter. I think that they're sort of a distraction in a way because they let candidates sort of espouse positions that they've taken in the last few months just before they decided to run for president. As far as who's going to perform best, I think Harris is now more in the spotlight. I expect to see her criminal justice record thoroughly examined. I think Biden is also back in the spotlight. And I'm expecting to see Warren and Sanders discuss the pros and cons of more robust social programs versus slightly less.
You know what I'd really like to see is for one of the candidates to call Joe Biden what he is, which is the Uncle Tom of the Democratic Party. Ouch. Here's a guy who was against busing, against integration of schools to give underprivileged kids a leg up. Here's a guy who was responsible for the 1994 crime bill, responsible for the largest incarceration of African-American men in this country. Yet a study at the Hill shows Democrats are still rallying behind Biden only because they think he's the only guy that can beat Trump. That is a sellout of the Democratic principles they claim to stand by. He's an Uncle Tom.
I understand where you're coming from. I don't think any of them are going to have the nerve to call him an Uncle Tom, but I think
Cory Booker might.
Cory Booker's kind of been around the edges of that.
I think it's fair to say that I mean, yikes, but I think it's fair to say that Biden has been on the wrong side of civil rights issues for the majority of his career. I think it's also important to note that in being on the wrong side of civil rights issues, he put himself with the mainstream of the Republican Party at the time.
Yeah.
And I also think that as his record comes out more and more people familiarize with it and frankly see his performance at these debates, I think people might start to reconsider.
Yeah,
actually,
he has a glass jaw.
Because I'm a debate writer, I got to fact check this on the fly. That's actually not true. The Democrats were the ones that lagged behind in their support of civil rights all the way through the time that Joe Biden was against busing. And for the 100 years prior, from 1865 to 1965, for 100 years it was the Republican Party that passed the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment, suffrage for women, which Democrats resisted for 40 years, and every civil rights law passed in the 1960s, including Senator Al Gore Sr.
Are we just going to yada the rest of the history?
That's not yada. I'm going to fact check you. If you say something wrong on air, I will fact check you.
I'm going to fact check you because if you read Earl and Merle Black's Rise of the Southern Republicans, you'll find that there was a realignment. It's a well-documented phenomenon of the South, which was solid blue. You're absolutely right. It was solid blue, and the Dixiecrats did stick around in the Democratic Party for a long time. But
that's through 1984, by the way, when President Ronald Reagan signed Martin Luther King Day, along with Richard M. Nixon,
as a way of selling an agenda that attacked the New Deal, which was extraordinarily popular, particularly in the South. Civil rights was the wedge issue that they used, and today, if you look at the South, it is solidly red. And I mean, if you look at the state of the Republican Party,
hey,
I think that's.
I wanted to talk about Trump and Elijah Cummings, but this conversation got so good we only covered the one topic. Walker Bragman, Jen Kearns, I want to thank you very much for mixing it up. That was a very feisty mix it up, and I'm looking forward to having you back and talking about your predictions. You stay right there. We'll be back right after this.